Today's learning target is I can create a detailed Tune Me design using styles and details of my choice, aka add a little spice using my art skills and craftsmanship. Everyone's end products today for the Tune Me challenge is going to look really different based on what styles and techniques we chose to apply to our portraits. However, there are specific things that we can all think about as we're creating today. Details. Let's think about some details. There are lots of different types of details you can think about. In particular for today, I want you to think about details of the texture of your clothing, details of highlights and shadows, and details that you can include in the background. So let's talk about texture of clothing. Now this detail may be specific to the type of art mode that you're working in. I like the blue color that I have going on in my jacket, but I think I want to add more detail to it. If you're doing the painterly style or a more illustrated style, it's really important to think about texture because that's going to help bring emphasis. Emphasis means to bring specific attention to. When we think about clothing, it does fit around our body and it's catching light and it's reflecting that texture back to us. So as you can see on my jean jacket, it's one single blue, right? But when you really take a look at it, I'm noticing I've got a dark blue, a medium blue, and a light blue. When I look at the texture, it kind of looks like, they kind of like crisscross, right? When you feel it too, it's a little rough. So it's kind of like this crosshatch texture. Now, I may need to play with a couple different tools to get the right effect that I want. So I'm going to start by heading over to my jean jacket. I think I'm going to pull just like a regular blue from the main thing right up here. I'm going to try the pencil tool first. I think the pencil is cool, but it's not really giving me the same effect as the jacket. I think that the dots tool, the spray paint tool, might be a good match. So let's try it. Okay, that's kind of giving that more refined look that I think the jacket has, right? Because it's very fine. It's not really noticeable at first, but from far away, it's kind of giving me that same effect. Every item of clothing has different texture. The texture on my jacket is different from the texture on my shirt. As you can see, it's kind of like a waffle knit, so it's kind of got tiny little squares. So maybe I'm doing more maybe I'm actually using the pencil tool. That might be a better tool for that effect. Texture just doesn't apply to clothing. It can also apply to our pets. If you're using a pet portrait for your Tune Me challenge, think about fur. There are lots of different ways that you can approach drawing the fur, from drawing the outer edges with those crisp lines as you can see here, adding in some shadows, or even adding in highlights of specific hairs. The second thing we want you to think about is highlights and shadows. As you can see on my jacket right here, I've got a couple things going on. I've got a fold right here, here, and here. Now this is really, really dark, right? So I know right away maybe I can just color block that. From within this jacket, I've kind of got 2 or 3 blues going on. I think I'm just gonna color block it to 1. So I'm gonna grab that eyedropper tool. I'm actually gonna close off my color. And then I'm gonna do one more eyedropper tool to get that darker blue. And some dimension to your work. Highlights I could think about, if I was tuning out my camera, the highlights I would add would probably be like a spot or two. I would probably be adding a spot or two, like where the camera lens is. I might be adding some highlights. Oh, well, there's like, you guys can even see that in my eye. I got one little highlight. You can just see from there, though, by adding a brighter color to that dark eye, how much it stands out in comparison now. Everything's just one color or really similar colors. It's not going to stand out from far away. But if you have something really bright next to something really dark, it's going to create a lot of contrast. Contrast means to use two things that are different from each other, such as light and dark versus rough and smooth. By putting them next to each other, they create visual interest, excitement, and drama. When you're working on the background, you have a whole lot of options. There are some artists who approach this project and just tune the person and leave the background be. Maybe you add on top of it without removing the photograph entirely. As you can see, I have these giant blocks. I started treating it as if it was a blank sheet of paper. So you add a color to this, completely block it out, and you start adding in, just one color. Maybe you add another shape or pattern on top of that. Or you could even add in a whole new thing. I've already seen some people who have been cropping themselves with other characters, adding in completely contrasting backgrounds, adding in other designs as well to that. So there's a lot of different ways you can approach it, and it really depends what kind of angle you have. but considering the background is a really important detail you need to think about today. Once you have completed your Toomey design, upload to Seesaw. Don't forget to tap that green check for approval. If you happen to make multiple Toomey challenges, you can upload on pages 2 as well. If you finished early, you can check out the bonus activities on slides 3 through 5. Maybe you choose to tune a real version of your school mascot. As you can see, I provided a picture of each of your school's mascots here. Maybe you want to Google another type of picture that you want to use, and you would do the same process but for your school mascot. Maybe you are taking a screenshot of your 5th grade teachers and tuning them. I'm sure they'd love to see how you would split them up, what types of things you think would match their personality, or even just to see your art style on their face. A lot of high schoolers and middle schoolers have to use calculators for math, so this is the typical one that they use. And there have been a couple of artists who have been documenting their journey of taking their peers' calculators and giving them a brand new design on the case. So maybe you design a case for yourself, maybe you design a case for your friend. All you'd have to do is take a screenshot of this phone and look up one of your choice and add a layer on top of that and create a whole brand new design. Example of what we're posting today is on slide 6. When you're done in Seesaw, tap that green check for approval.